Hello everyone and welcome. Make a cup of your favorite drink and get comfortable because this is a wonderful time for news stories from Yellowcat. Send your own stories in the comments below and maybe they'll be in our new video. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet, and let's get started. In your experience, what is the most memorable instance of a "you have no power here" moment? It was a very long time ago, in 2001 or 2002. Back then, I was a young programmer working on my very first engineering job. It was in SoCal, a startup. I was employee number 10, so it was exciting at first, but as the business expanded and we moved into nicer quarters, the management team started to get a little too domineering. One of the founders, the vice president of marketing in particular, would issue directives and simply incredibly restrictive regulations regarding attire, etc. Eventually, a dress code was announced, such as you can wear jeans to work on Friday, but they can't be blue in color, which the executives would then blatantly disregard while forcing the rest of us to comply. I made the decision to cut off my long hair on my 30th birthday. The long hair that was so annoying to Linda. The long hair that reached my rear end. I'd been growing my long hair since I was 15. More than that, though, I made the decision to shave the company logo into my brain. There was a circle inside a triangle. Jokingly, I would say that it was on my head so I could connect to the Matrix. Being among the first employees of the company, I was familiar with almost every person. I'm a cheerful person who enjoys making jokes, so I got along well with everyone. It was shocking to arrive at work with a mostly shaved head. In general, the comments all had the same format and quality. Very nice. Has Linda already seen the back? Approach my workstation. Boss visits. We remain friends to this day, in fact. He adores it. He lets out a loud laugh when I show him my back. I have to get Linda. Linda approaches. You appear so much more polished. Wow. It'll greatly benefit your career. Blah, blah, blah. She complimented me while falling over herself, ecstatic that I had finally found compliance. Show her the back, is what my boss said. To let her see it, I flip my chair around and get up. I hear a faint exhale. I turn to see her flushed and visibly enraged. Utter perfection. Why didn't you dye it green to match the logo? She asks, attempting to gather her thoughts. I grinned at her and said, because that would be against the dress code. She was furious. She was unable to speak, though. I hadn't dressed inappropriately. While complimenting herself, she'd stumbled over herself. The game is ended. Probably the best day I've ever had at work, even to this day. Until I shaved it off, she and the CEO, who went on to become a real big shot, just ignored me. They would walk by me in the hallways without making eye contact or saying hi. Funny as H. At my company's headquarters, I work in IT. We likely assist more than 100 users, along with their interns and assistants, who have been the subject of medium-profile articles. In case you didn't know, Microsoft stopped supporting Windows 7 in January of this year. We were well aware of it in advance for those in the industry, and we updated every machine to Windows 10 appropriately. Since 2017, I've worked on Windows 10 upgrade projects for other businesses, and once IT makes the decision to move forward, there's no going back on the Windows 10 upgrade. About the end of 2018, the current company decides to begin the transition of all remaining W7 machines to W10. All staff members receive emails signed by the CIO or CEO. The best men in our whole industry are saying this. Every 2 weeks, we hold global IT meetings on Zoom to talk about our progress. The number of W7 numbers that are still in our office are decreasing. We're still reminding those who haven't switched that they must work with us to complete the task by sending emails every few weeks. Presenting Mr. Big Shot, who's obviously exempt. He begins emailing my manager 7 months out, claiming he can't move to Windows 10 because his current setup is too specific, that Windows 10 is a POS, etc. The manager responds telling him that this is not negotiable and gives him until January. Mr. Big Shot contacts his boss after receiving the subsequent email reminder and repeats the same message. Boss notes that this is a request from the top level of the company and that the rest of their team has handled the switch. After the next reminder, he visits our internal IT support and informs us that, well, he's a big shot, so he needs to talk to our manager and obtain an exemption. The manager reiterates the contents of the prior email. We get to 2 months away. We were told at our global IT meeting that we could notify users that if they choose not to make the switch, their machines will be disconnected from the network. The company's top brass fully supports our decision to cut off services on January 14th, 2020. Big Shot invites me to come talk to his administrative assistant via email. The administrator describes Big Shot's exemption status. A coworker elucidates the threat of cutoff. The year has begun. Big Shot informs his department head that he's exempt. Department head queries CIO about any exceptions. CIO is extremely transparent. Today is January 14th, 2020. Coworker disconnects after speaking with Big Shot's administrative assistant. Big Shot can no longer access the network. I'm in the internal IT department. The administrator for Big Shot comes down and shows me the laptop, stating he's unable to get online. After taking a quick glance at the machine, I pull out my "I haven't heard that name in years" face and pretend to be really shocked that a computer running Windows 7 is still in use, considering the security risk it poses to the entire business and the fact that IT has made its position very, very clear over the last 12 months. She has to take the computer and upgrade it right away, I tell her. He'll get it back tomorrow, but it'll take the rest of the day. I summon my colleague and give him the device. Heading upstairs, admin gives Big Shot an explanation. Big Shot alerts the department head right away and he reprimands him. The department head gives us his full support and apologizes for our team's patience over the phone with my manager. Today, I looked at our tickets and saw that we haven't received one from him in 9 months. After high school, I was hired by my dad's company through a summer program. My immediate supervisors were corporate HR, which is basically my dad. Additionally, I reported to them even though I worked in a warehouse. My boss was really annoying and incompetent. I wasn't really working hard for him during the last 2 weeks. The man gave me an assignment. He gathered every odd object he could find from the warehouse and simply built a massive pile that measured at least 10 feet in width and 6 feet in height, informed me that I had to go through it all, locate everything in the catalog, make an inventory, and place everything in its proper place. This pile only came to be due to years of poor management, during which time erroneous items were lost, misplaced, or discarded, and no one took action. I told him that I wouldn't do it, that he should take care of the issue he caused, and that he should cut back on his 2-hour lunches. He gave it to me, yelling in my face that I'm being disobedient, stating that I needed to prove myself with this project if I wanted to be like him in the future, and that he deserved respect for all the years he put in at this company. I burst out laughing, just laughing and clinging to my sides. He told me to get my belongings and that I had been fired. That's when my laughter stopped. I stood up, looked him dead in the eye, and said, "Buddy, you can't effing fire me. You don't even pay me. Corporate does. And I don't even report to you. So if you want me to call blankety blankface, my dad's boss, who I sorta knew, and talk to him, I will gladly. But unless you want a full list of every single issue I've made note of with this place to make its way to the president's desk, I suggest you back off and let me finish my summer in peace." He dared me. A week after HR dispatched someone to speak with staff members and confirm my grievances, he was fired. Do you have a story about your most unpleasant neighbor or homeowners association HOA? I got a letter from my HOA when I got home from work. During a recent community inspection, it was discovered that you're keeping artificial turns in your driveway. Please take a moment to take this out of the common area as soon as you receive this notice. No, I did not type that incorrectly. They want us to take out the fake turn we have stored in our driveway. It seems that they're suggesting that we should take out a small artificial grass strip that my home's builder Leonard included as a design element. We've only been the house's first owner for 2 years. In this neighborhood of more than 50 homes constructed in 2019, nearly every person is a first-time homeowner. Yes, my house served as the model home as well. The front yard remained unchanged by us. The neighborhood inspector never would have forgotten that he or she used my house as a talking point when deciding whether or not to purchase a house of their own. Simply put, incompetence throughout. The HOA wants me to spend my own money renovating the design that was used to sell every home in the neighborhood, even though they have the legal right to change the bylaws to prohibit artificial grass for new renovations. Let's talk about immorality. They probably can't accomplish that. I sent them a very nice email explaining that even though I'm not a fan of artificial turf and wouldn't mind having my driveway changed, they'll need to pay for the remodel because I won't be spending money to modify something I already own before the HOA was formed. Revision. In a single email response, the HOA representative apologized for any confusion and announced that the case would be closed. They believed that the driveway was being used to store artificial turf. What a time waster. I'm glad there wasn't more conflict to finish this off. My spouse and I believe that the HOA, or at least one of the inspectors, was merely attempting to gauge their level of power. It defies logic how someone could have installed artificial grass incorrectly, like it was off a Home Depot shelf. They presumably wanted to see if we were cowards who would do anything to avoid confrontation and alter the situation to suit their needs without asking them. I can't think of any other reason. I would never ever buy in an HOA. I have almost 4 acres, meters and bounds in the county with chickens, sometimes goats and pigs or other livestock. Since I don't have any goats right now, my 2 back acres have grown over. I love blackberries, but they're taking over. I haven't cleared the back of my property in years, but this weekend I rented a skid steer and got to work. In the back of my property, there's a creek that I can't get to because it's not quite on my property lines. Also, there's a typical planned subdivision that backs up to my property. I'm sure it has an HOA, but I don't care. Neighbor walks over from the woods and says, "You can't do that with a 200-foot easement." I'm happy cutting down trees and piling them up along my property line. I don't have a 200-foot easement. That's half my land that I can't use. She says there's a 200-foot creek easement, which makes no sense at all. That's about 20 feet for creeks. So she brings over a copy of her deed. I've lived here for almost 17 years, so I don't have a copy of my deed with me because why would I? Anyway, to cut a long story short, her land is 419 feet deep and about 120 feet wide. And yes, there is a 200-foot easement for U&D, utility and drainage, for her. My sister is a real estate agent, so I had her look at my deed, but I don't have such an easement. Well done on purchasing a home where you're unable to use 50% of the land due to easements. Dip asses. The HOA for the townhomes where I live is pretty strict. About 6 weeks ago, I moved in next door to someone new. She'll be called Elaine. 18 weeks ago, Elaine moved in. Ever since then, I've seen her putting her trash in my trash can. My trash can can't close because of Elaine's trash. She also puts her trash bags next to my bin sometimes. The city will pick this up, but the HOA doesn't like it when trash bags or open trash cans are in front of the house. You'll get a fine. Getting your trash picked up in my city costs about $300 a year, or $25 a month, and a bin costs about $45 if you don't already have one. I told her to stop doing that the first time I saw her do it. She said she was having to wait for her bin because she didn't want her trash to get too big. Okay, you can put your trash here for now. Just make sure the lid's on tight. You need to hold it if not. It's been a month and Elaine's still using my trash can. When I asked what was wrong, she said she wasn't able to get a bin right now and said she was sorry. 2 notices have been sent to me about my trash cans being full. She was told she couldn't put trash in my can anymore. I didn't have to work last week. Again, I saw Elaine putting a huge amount of trash into my trash cans. I took her trash out of my cans and put the bags on her porch when she left. Looks like Elaine left town. The trash stayed in front of her door for about a week. It smelled awful. My wife was home when she got back, but I wasn't. My wife says she threw a fit about the trash when she came to our house. They told her she'd been fined and given several notices from the HOA. They also asked why we put gross trash in front of her door. The fight she had with my wife was very heated. My wife called me and told me what went on. Our neighbor and I are no longer friendly because of how I handled this situation. She thinks I'm a jerk. However, I do not believe that just because we're friendly, we should be abused. She needs to pay for her trash to be collected like everyone else. The last house I lived in was part of an HOA. At the time, I worked for a company that made medical equipment and was on call, so I needed my company van to get me home. One of the rules said that company cars were not allowed. Those years were fun. A car was parked outside in the driveway for me. We were going to get hail, yay Midwest, and I wanted to keep the car safe. I put on a car cover and tied it down. One of the jerks from the HOA came to my door during a break in the storm to tell me that a car cover was against one of the indentures. It's against the rules for me to protect my investment. Okay. We've moved since then. There is an HOA in the new neighborhood. The old house on the property was torn down and 2 new ones built instead, so my home is brand new and I'm not part of the association. I worked for a company that had another company car, this time a cargo van. One of the association's board members tried to make me follow their stupid rules. It was fun to tell him, "You have no power here." I need to tell him to go away. I don't like getting into fights, but this made me feel good. No more HOAs. We're very, very glad to see you all in the comments again. Many, many thanks for your support.